These things you can get for about 99 cents at the, you got Menards out here, Home Depot, you know, whatever. Anyway, hardware store, 99 cents. Really simple. These things you got to build or buy. That's a whole 3-stringer right there. That last song was off of a project called Cardboard Box, and it's I've been living in Matthew chapter 25 for, I don't know, about 2.5 years now. How do you treat the least of these? Jesus said, as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. And it just so happens that the community that I'm a part of, there are about, we're weird, okay? We're really weird. We came out of the Jesus movement back in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And we've been in Chicago now since '73. And we have about, I don't know, 350 adults, a couple hundred kids. We, with the help of a denomination called the Evangelical Covenant Church, and dear friends, partnered with us. 7 out of our 9 pastors ended up getting ordained in the covenant. And we got to be the weirdest. We got piercings and tats and the whole 9 yards. 10, 12, 15 yards. And all right, let's give it a shot. Thank you, Pastor. And you probably want to add a lot of low end, a lot of bass, and a bit of mid-range, and you'll be there. Thanks. Yeah, so anyway, what ended up happening is we partnered together and they with us. Thank you, Pastor. And you got to know, when this church was formed, most of us were in our early 20s. And we had just, in a very short time, had a senior pastor just completely royally backslide. We all looked at each other and said, okay, we need help. And we got a bunch of folks who have come right out of the drug scene, out of all kinds of sexual and alcohol addictions, and that's where most of us came from. And here God calls us to the inner city of Chicago, man, 8 million metro, among poor people and homeless people and all these broken, messed up folks. And the church didn't want to know these people. The church doesn't want these people to be in their building on Sunday morning, So I started to realize, as time went on, every one of us is either a wall or a bridge. And we're either building walls or building bridges. And either we reflect Jesus and give what we can, and do what we can to help just 1, 2, 3 people, maybe right on your own block. Or man, we can point the finger at 1 million people. Zillions of people. Because these people are bums, and it's all sin and personal decision, right? And these folks, well, they earned it, so let them enjoy it. They should never have to share it. And I'm like, we all deserve hell, man. The only thing anybody's ever going to earn in this life is damnation and separation from God for eternity. And anything else is the grace and the mercy of Jesus. Give, and it shall be given unto you. And I don't mean forget the given unto you. Just give. Don't worry about it.
That's right.
So one of the object lessons, we have a 480-bed homeless shelter. We have 18 safe apartments. We have in our top 3 floors of our 10-story hotel that 80% of the church literally moved in. My wife and I have 1 room. I don't have life insurance. I don't own a car. I don't get a salary. Every dime I make goes right back into the ministry and pays bills. There are too many people talking about love, and they give 10%. I'm like, I'm glad Jesus didn't give 10% of his blood for us. I don't have to live like most Christians, and I'm not called to tell everybody else to live like we live, because you're not all called to live like we live either. I'm not preaching to live like Jesus people in Chicago. I'm not everybody move into intentional community and live in 1 room and, drive a beat-up car or whatever. I'm not saying that. Don't misunderstand me. But if I can put 85% of the money that comes through anything I do into direct ministry and live off of roughly 20% in a co-op with other Christians who have the same call in the heart, Why would I want to live any other way? So one of the things that I've learned is, these cheap little throwaway things that you can get, pieces of at Home Depot, or, this is the fancy one. I'll play the other one in a minute. It's an object lesson. Because we were all throwaway once. A lot of these folks coming into the shelter, veterans, biggest people group coming in. They've laid their necks on the line, whether we agreed with it or not, whether you would have deployed them or not. They didn't deploy themselves, by the way. And they come back, man. And we do a parade and bake a cake and throw medals and thank you very much, you're our heroes, and thank you, see you later, Divorces, post-traumatic stress. People don't. This guy sounds like a leftist from Chicago. The truth is, I don't care what I sound like. I'm reading Matthew 25, and it says, as you've done it to the least of these, not as you've thought about doing it. It's the book of Acts, not the book of ideas, not the book of theories, not the book of concepts. These people are hurting, and what are we doing? About nothing. And some of us are just trying to survive financially. So I'm not trying to, skin the sheep here. I'm simply saying, come on. Is there a widow or an orphan on your block? Is there a returning veteran? Is there somebody hurting and in need? You can't wait till Sunday morning. And these people are somebody's son or daughter or brother or sister laying in that park sleeping under that stuff. Okay? That's a human being with a name that Jesus died for. Equally as he died for anybody else. You, me, Billy Graham, Mother Teresa, or whoever it is that you like, And the punchline is, this is the good news. Because the poor will hear the gospel. And not just hear it preached, blah, 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 but watch it lived in our lives. Love one another. Look, y'all. Love one another. Love one another looks like that. It's not always fun. You ask them how they're doing, they may tell you. They may tell you a lot. And now you're stuck. Now you got to do something. Or link them up with somebody who can help. So I've learned a lot of things over these 2 years I've been in ministry now. One of them is that I don't have all the answers. I need to have bigger ears and a mouth. And another is that if I don't love in practical ways, I can be just like the priest and the Levite that walked right by that dude in the ditch. The priest and the Levite were the ones that walked by. The certain Samaritan didn't ask any questions. Who knows whether this guy deserved it? He was unconscious. As far as we know, he never had a conversation with him. The guy just picked him up, took care of him, spent, sacrificed him. We don't even know if this guy ever met this guy who hauled him out of the ditch. And that's Jesus' parable. Jesus is telling that story, folks. Now you might say, oh, it's all politics and whatever, Well, guess what? I was that prodigal. I was that messed up kid that nobody thought would be worth the powder to blow up. I was the junk thrown in dumpsters and cast off like worthless and useless. When our sons and daughters look at the church, they're not interested in 60 minutes or 120 minutes on a weekend. They're watching your life. How do you treat each other? Are you forgiving one another? And are you really willing to reach out to broken and hurting folks, or do you roll a window up and just keep going? Too many of us talk love. But when it comes down to loving, not so much. like Amos and his kin. Only two roads they can walk on. One is righteous, one is sin. Church and on radio. The good news ain't a mystery. He like Amos doesn't know. That Clay in Ripley County, stick as it has ever been. That I stop in. See, the gospel, the good news that Jesus died and is risen and is coming again, that he paid the price, that you can't work your way to heaven, you can't do enough good stuff to change God. God says, I'm the Lord, I change not. And as Dr. Tony Evans says, God loves you just the way you are, but he loves you too much to let you stay that way.